Get started? Okay, I'm ready to get started because it's definitely time and I want to make sure we get through everything on the agenda because we do have a lot to cover. So again, thank you all for coming. If you haven't had a chance, sign in. If you have not also had a chance to grab a drink or some food, definitely feel free to do so right now. We've got several presentations to get through, and then we've got some opportunity at the end to kind of just touch base on the state of the affairs for the district as it relates to just health services and some of the things that we've been working on initiative-wise. And so, like I said, I just want to go ahead and get started. Up first, we've got Chief Shower and the fentanyl awareness presentation. So if we're wanting to go ahead and get started, is he here? Are we here? Yes, sir. That's what I thought. I was like, I'm looking at you, but I don't see the uniform.
I was in railroad training today,
Okay.
so that's why I'm not in a uniform. We're
That's what I
climbing up
thought.
the railroad cars.
Okay.
Can I do a flash drive? Is that good for you?
Yeah. This one, is that one, maybe? Hopefully. Here. Stick that one in there. That's probably this, yeah.
I think I eat earlier in because I exchanged the part of the auto store. And I had to go and I had to go pick up dinner and then I had to go get my prescription in the car and then I took him back and
Also,
Good equipment.
yeah. Say, we're just on top of things today.
Well, do you want the long version or the short version? How much time do you, how much time would I have?
How much time should we, what's our time?
Yeah,
Chunking the
tell me.
time, like what, 15, 30 minutes? What you need?
No, what would you like to hear? Because I could give a little bit longer version that you might want to hear, but it's up to you. But it won't take maybe 15 to 20 minutes max, if you'd like to hear that.
Yeah, definitely. This is our first time discussing fentanyl as this group and generally just as a district having this conversation. So I'd say give us the long version.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been out of the department a long time. I've been all over. I've worked everywhere. But a lot of my career I spent in narcotics, working as a supervisor. I've been in over 300 raids, kicking the door raids, back when we did kick in the door raids. Made over 1,000 arrests in my career, from capital murder to everything else. And, even though I'm saying that, because I've been around a long time and I've done those kind of things, that's not where policing is going nowadays. We're really trying now to divert people into treatment for substance abuse. That's our plan down the road, for mental health treatment, to give them more of what they need for the intercept model, instead of letting them fall all the way down and commit a crime and we pick them up because we're the only ones available. So when it comes to narcotics, I've had a history of enforcement. But one of the things that I can't get through my brain with fentanyl is not only how deadly it is, but the kinds of people that it's actually killing. So you know that you have somebody that's on heroin or whatever, that they're going to be at risk of an overdose or something's going to go wrong. That's the nature of the game. But in fentanyl, they're putting it on everything now. I talked to Crystal. She runs the Senate Court, patient service and everything there. And fentanyl's on everything. And they're seeing overdoses there. The one right down the street. And they're putting it on marijuana, on meth, on heroin products. But the thing that really scares me is pills. So at the very end slide of this isn't that long, but at the very end of this, I kind of changed up Wendell's presentation to put what happened to a high school student who he ended up going to Rice University, and one of his friends on the football team, a co-player, gave him some hydrocodone to help him with an injury. They said, "Well, here," so he took it and he died. That one pill killed him. One pill killed him. So I've got 4 kids, and they went through. I've got 2 older ones, 2 younger ones, and I can't imagine that I watched my kids being born, walked them to school, science fair, band, field trips, debate, did everything with them, and they weren't at risk. They weren't drug users like you'd even think. But then they make a bad decision at a party, on the beach, or whatever else, and the next thing you know, they're not hospitalized, they're dead. So when this presentation came around, they did this at the McKinsey Annex at the jail down on SPID back in January. The Sheriff Hooper hosted it. So I went to it, and really, this part of the training was like 3 hours long. This part took about an hour, but it won't take an hour today. But I really took issue with it. And you'll see at Houston, they're having an issue with fentanyl and other drugs like Houston would probably have. But their overdoses are enough that they created a campaign to let people know, an awareness campaign about how dangerous it is. And that's what I want to talk to you about. So why are we here today with fentanyl? How did it get to be here? And this is my part, not Wendell's. Wendell's a crime analyst out of Houston. So the reason we got here, in a way, is you've heard of OxyContin, right? The drug. It's very painful. A very, very strong painkiller. So they actually came up with this and developed it, and it was on the market somewhere in 1996. Purdue Pharmaceuticals, Pharma. And you know what happened to them, right? They've been sued all over the country and that. When those lawsuits finally get approved by that federal court, I think Nueces County is due to get over $1 million, and so is the city of Corpus, hopefully to put back into drug issues, not in the streets. So what happened when they were promoting that drug, they hired a whole bunch of salespeople to go out and tell the doctors, this is not habit-forming drug. Even though it's a synthetic opiate, it's not habit-forming, We've tested it, it's good to go. So why let your patients deal with pain when we have something that can take away their pain for them? And if you remember going to the doctor's office so many years ago, not that long ago, do you remember those little charts they had with the smiley faces on them? Tell me how with smiley face. That was created by the Purdue pharmacies. And it was created to make it real simple for people. And I don't think any surgeries or anything else were made to be totally pain-free, but they were trying to sell it like that. So then down the road, right away it became abused. And the big problem started probably in West Virginia. They'd have these small pharmacies for Walmart or whatever else, serving a population of county with almost nobody in it, selling 1 million pills. People were pill shopping, they were forging prescriptions, they were going doctor to doctor, they were reselling it. And the thing about OxyContin, it's a slow pain release. That's what its marketing thing is. So it's like a time capsule, like you might take for a cold. It melts away, and your cores, not right in the middle. It melts away and gives you like 12 hours of pain relief. But the drug users found a way around that right away. They put it in their mouth, and when they just leave it in there, the saliva would kind of dissolve it right away, and they would take out the core and sell that core. So it wouldn't be time release anymore. Long story short, a lot of people got addicted to OxyContin products. A lot of folks. So we had some people from the East Coast come down here and give us a class. They're called PARI. And they work with police departments to try to do something more than just arrest everybody we encounter who have hard drugs. In Texas right now, any kind of hard drug is an automatic state jail felony and above. They're all felonies. So meth, cocaine, heroin products, anything like that are all automatic felonies. There are no misdemeanors. So that's the way we treat our drugs. We've had that same strategy since like the 1960s. So with the pullback then, when everybody started realizing that it was very highly habit-forming, just like using heroin, they started pulling back on the market. Doctors stopped not prescribing it, but they started tightening up on people shopping. They still use OxyContin today, that patches, and they use it it was designed for like terminal cancer patients. They still use it, but they pull back on the market because of the abuse. And that's why today you have a lot of some of the bigger companies like I think Walmart and some of the bigger pharmacies, CVS, they all got sued because they were saying, well, we're just filling the prescription. Well, you knew better. You knew the population couldn't support this. You knew there was a fraud. And they're getting sued as well. So how does that bring us here? Well, people then, when they couldn't get the OxyContin is pretty expensive. It might cost $20 to $25 for a tablet. They turn to heroin because it's cheaper. Mexican heroin is cheaper. So where does fentanyl come in? Well, fentanyl is cheaper than anything. So basically the way it goes, it comes from China. It's a synthetic type of pain reliever. It's very, very powerful. It's 50 to 100 times more powerful than heroin. So the Chinese make it. They sell it to the cartels in Mexico. There's 2 main cartels. that bring it across our borders. And when they do that, they can turn $20,000 worth of powdered fentanyl into $6 million or more of products. They can do that by putting it in a little bit in pills or by spraying on anything else. Because you don't need heroin in a pill. You don't need heroin on anything. If you have fentanyl that's 100 times more powerful, all you need is a medium to put it on to take it. And you don't need to, heroin you don't normally eat. You shoot it up, you shoot it up mostly. You can snort it, and you can. But on fentanyl, I mean, you can pretty much do anything as long as you ingest it and get it in your system. Let's try this. Oh, somebody's in a waiting room. Do you want to?
Yeah, so you're gonna have to use the touchpad, since I took out the.
Oh, is that,
the-
okay.
Yeah, I took it out, and then real quick, let her in. And back to the slideshow.
All right. So he cited where he got this information from when he did. This is from CDC, our national, for disease control, Center for Disease Control. But it's a leading cause of death, nothing else between the people who are 18 to 45. Isn't that remarkable? It's not traffic accidents, it's not cancer. It's every 5 minutes we are losing somebody to an overdose. And most of the people who are dying, the greatest percentage are from fentanyl, so far as I know. So last year we had over 100,000 people, and the year before that as well. And that's why it is a big deal. It's showing up all over the radar. In the Caller Times, I saw an article a few days ago about John Cornyn, our senator. He was saying he needed to take a more active role, I guess, in fentanyl legislation, or looking at doing some response other than, hey, it's here, it's happening. Because I think people have it in the back of their brains that this can just, you're a heroin user, you're an abuser, you're bound to have problems, but it's affecting a lot of other folks. So one of the things they pointed out in the last 20 years, we've had more people die from overdoses from drugs than in all the wars that we have fought as America. And that's pretty substantial. When you think of the numbers accumulating, if we're going to be hitting 100,000 a year, it doesn't take too long to rack up the numbers. So fentanyl, it's just a white powdery thing. It's if you had a dog come across a brick of fentanyl, the dog's not going to hit on it. What the dog's going to hit on, like a narcotic dog, is going to be the fentanyl mixed in with heroin or something the dog is trained to sniff. If the dog is trained to sniff marijuana, it's going to show up on the marijuana or powder on the marijuana, but not just by itself. And it's really hard to track how many people actually overdose. So we as a police department, if we find out about an overdose, it's because we made the call. Somebody it could be a homeless person that, we ended up being there, so we made a report on them. Could made a report for a DOA in a house or somewhere. So we know about that because we can retrieve that data or find out. If somebody goes directly to the hospital, it's covered by HIPAA. We don't get that information. It's treated as a sick call. And we don't have a reach to get into HIPAA stuff unless it's a criminal case, and then we can subpoena. So far as I can tell, most of the overdoses then now are for fentanyl. They're not from just taking too much of any drug. And they're increasing. So this is a slide, if nothing else to remember. If you took just a small tablet, like a normal size tablet, like you would have for hydrocodone or anything else, because they come in different shapes. But if you take a normal size pill and break it apart, and you put a little dose of fentanyl in there, 2 milligrams or greater of fentanyl, which is the size of a grain of salt, is fatal. So 1 milligram to 1.5 milligram is what the drug dealers are trying to get in there. And the sad thing is, too, some of the people abusing heroin, they're wanting fentanyl in their product. It's not like they're, oh, God, I'm not taking that because it's got fentanyl. They want fentanyl because they're building somewhat of a resistance. The more you get over time, the more you want of a concentration or the more you can take. They want fentanyl in the product because it is so powerful. So just that little speck in there. And the thing is, like with fentanyl strips, they actually sell strips that you can rub on a product. And if there's fentanyl mixed in with it, it'll turn that strip a color where you'll know fentanyl's on it. But if the drug users want fentanyl, well, they're paying for that to begin with. But what kind of high school student or college student is going to take a strip with them? And in Texas, it's illegal to have a strip. It's considered to be drug paraphernalia. I didn't know that either until I started doing research on it. I think the last legislature, they put it in under drug paraphernalia, then it was illegal. So I hope they change that. But the way Texas looks at some things, because it's very conservative, right? In the House and the Congress and the Senate, they look at it like it's a harm reduction type of thing. Harm reduction could also be anything affecting pregnancies. You'll never see Texas, like in New York City, have a shooting gallery, which they house where a lot of people, or they give away syringes. Do you think really in Texas we're going to have that? We're probably not. Whether you agree or disagree, you say, well, if you're going to use drugs anyway, here it is. You're not going to see some drug handout, condom handout. Here's a cot, lay down and sleep it off. That's not going to happen here anytime soon. So whether you agree or disagree, fentanyl's out there. That truck is like a normal sized moving truck, and the yellow shows how much heroin it would take to match up with the power of fentanyl and to the right. So just a little bit of fentanyl. That's how powerful it is. And this just shows how many units that they can actually convert into dosages. So if you had just a normal size of heroin, like somebody would imbibe to get high, that's how much fentanyl they could actually make out of that same amount, because it's so powerful. Because you can dilute it so much because it's so powerful. This just shows, like, if you were to take so many dosage units of fentanyl and spread them out for 2 milligrams, that will kill you. But if you start dividing it 1.5 to 1 milligrams, you could turn $20,000 into $6 to $10 million. And that's why it's so attractive to the cartels and the drug dealers, because they're making such an enormous, enormous profit off it. You can't tell the difference. So some of those are real and some are fake. So look, I mean, would you chance your life on that? Like somehow you can tell the difference? We have books, we can look at pills, but they have stamps that they make. When they're making the pill press to the left, they have the pill presses. I don't know how they get the pill presses. If they order them, steal them, get them from China too. But the pill presses they make to look like the pill that they're trying to emulate. And then all they do is get the powder, get the fentanyl. In that pill press, those electronic pill presses can make thousands and thousands and thousands of pills in a single day. So look how dirty it is. And if you start thinking, do you think they're really paying attention to how many milligrams are in there? So they're probably filling a cylinder, and the cylinder is automatically loading. But I'm sure that's probably why we're getting so many. I doubt if they seriously want to kill their whole population of people that might want to use drugs. But the thing is, they're so careless in the way they make it that that's what you get. And they're also making it to look like, just like with vaping and stuff, they make stuff to be attractive to kids. I think they brought the hammer down on some of the vaping companies. The companies that made vaping products, they're making it look like Scooby-Doo and all the stuff that attract teenagers and young people. And this isn't about vaping, but vaping's been a big problem, I think, for middle school and high school, and it's worse than smoking. So the HIDA is a high-intensity drug trafficking area. There's 32 of them in the country. And if you wonder how does the drug thing work? So we are part of Houston HIDA. We're the southernmost tip of it. McAllen has its own. Our HIDA group is a combination of federal, state, local partners. So we all combine into a task force. So when the Border Patrol pulls over somebody in Sarita or Falfurrias and pull them over and find drugs in a car or even an 18-wheeler, they call us here in Corpus Christi at the DEA office. That's where our HIDA group works out of DEA. Then we send officers down there, and sometimes it'll be PD officers, because we have, I think, 5 officers on that task force. They go down there, pick up the person, bring them to the federal courthouse, magistrate them, tag the drugs, and then they file the case so they can prosecute it. That's how it works. So HIDA groups are very popular, and they've been around for a long time now, because it's the way the federal government works with state, or with the local policing, because local policing really have their pulse on what's going on in that city. We have all the records, we know, where the federals don't. They have the reach of federal law, but they don't have the knowledge of the population. So these task forces, we share in forfeitures and everything else. But we've had these ever since I can remember, probably since the early 90s at least, we've had HIDA groups. So the HIDA group also tracks overdoses, and they track trends, and they put that stuff out. So that's what the HIDA group is. So they're saying in the Houston HIDA region, which includes us, the seizure of fentanyl and pills. And we also had one of our officers the other day, he was telling me, it's been about over a year ago, he seized, I forgot how much fentanyl was, I think it was over a pound, but it was mixed in with powder and the dog hit on it, so it had some heroin mixed in with it, but it was really a pure form of fentanyl. And he seized it here. So when they start testing for fentanyl, because they don't test all drugs for fentanyl. So just to give you an idea too, when it comes to synthetic drugs, a lot of the homeless are still using synthetics here. That's what they use more than probably, that and alcohol, but a lot of them are using synthetics. Synthetics can be anything sprayed on plant materials and they smoke it. So it could be something you took out of your garage and the drug dealers have found out it'll make you high, to synthetic cannabinoids, but unnecessarily. But some of the people that we see that are homeless after they take 1 or 2 hits off a blunt, a small cigarillo, they're just sitting there wavering back and forth like a zombie. They can't even fall down. And we usually tend to take them to the hospital, or we at least get them checked out. And then if they're somewhere where we think they're safe, we'll leave them there, but a lot of times they'll have to go to the hospital. But just one toke of that, because all the drug dealers are doing there is sprinkling whatever they made, the product, they'll take that, they take the cigarillo that you smoke, they cut it down the middle with a little donut thing with a razor blade in it. They split it open, and then they sprinkle the synthetic in there. And all the synthetic is some plant material that'll burn, like tobacco, and it's got whatever the synthetic is sprayed on it. And that synthetic can be anything. So a long time ago, probably 7 years ago, we met with DPS here locally, and their lab quit testing for synthetics. They don't test for it anymore if it's a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor is anything less than 4 ounces. So any case that we make where we find somebody with we think synthetic, we can tag the drugs, arrest the person, but it won't be prosecuted because there's no drug report. It's just a complete waste of time doing it. And the same thing with marijuana. So marijuana is different though, but one legislature ago, they passed the 0.3 THC law. So you have to prove the THC content of the thing that makes you high from marijuana, that it's greater than 3%. Otherwise, they consider the marijuana to be hemp, because there is a market for hemp. So when they did that, DPS has no mechanism, and they still don't, 2 years later, to test for that. So the prosecutors, the DA's office, and I don't blame them, will not take any marijuana product unless there's a test with it. The only way you'll get a test is if it's a felony. If you have big bundles of marijuana over 4 ounces, bricks, pounds, they can test for that. But beyond that, all the cases we have for marijuana, not a single one has been prosecuted in over 2 years. So we tag it. What we do now here locally, for small amounts, we write a citation, let the person go. But we have to show we're not just throwing the drug away because people accuse us of taking it. So we take it, we tag it, we document it, write the citation, and then is that like a waste of time to you? It's a waste of time to me. And I work there. They're talking about how much it costs per kilo of fentanyl. And it's in kilo because, the Chinese don't deal in pounds, we deal in pounds.
Yeah.
And the Mexicans, they deal in kilos too. So. But 2 cartels have been identified as the ones that have been the main ones shipping it into the United States. And if you're wondering too, forever pretty much, when we have large loads of drugs coming in over the border, they don't come to Corpus. They might go through on our freeways. Well, it's not 77's not a freeway, but they might take a back road. But they're not coming here normally, straight here. They'll go to Houston, and then from Houston, it's like an airport. That's your hub, and then it'll come back to us after it's been distributed and broken up, after it's the rig or whatever has been taken apart. So we had the medical examiner at our training back in January, and he's really sharp, and he's new, fairly new. And he said that there was over 100 overdoses that they identified. But then you're not talking about how many people actually overdosed, who didn't die, are going to have major medical problems, or he serves multiple counties, but I'm not so sure too that they always identify the right thing and what killed somebody. So I gave a very short speech after I went through this. They said, hey, please get the word out. And when I heard about especially the pills and the kids being at risk taking pills, I made it a personal goal of mine to try to hit all the major school districts. And I wanted to do it before spring break. But once I present it to you, like the SHAC or whatever, because I sit on the SHAC for CCISD, I'm their vice chair. And I just presented it this week. And so I've done Carol Allen, I met with them. I still need to be at Flower Bluff, but I've got call-outs to London School District. Anybody I can get in this region close to us, that's what I would like to do. And just get the top administrators. But once you have the message, what you do with it. But if you think, hey, I'm scaring off people, I'm like, the sky is falling, it's a health concern. It's a big deal. It's happening. It's not real. So I serve on the Purple Door, and I just said, hey, I'm telling you, you know, after a board meeting, this is something we all need to be concerned of, especially with your clients. And one of the members of the board started crying. And she had lost her daughter 2 months before, 3 months before in Kingsville. And she just got the lab report back. And the lab report said she died of fentanyl. She had some depression issues, wasn't a substance abuser, but she was probably self-medicating, got it from somewhere, died of fentanyl. Then I, Metro Ministries, I served in their board. And then I had somebody on there, her brother died over a year ago. He had abused heroin on and off, but she got his lab report back, and it was fentanyl as well. But the other one with her daughter, you know, how hard is it to lose a child? I can't imagine anything worse than, you know, my goal in life was really for my kids to outlive me by at least 200 years. Because I can't imagine losing a child. I don't care what age that child is. So that's why I'm here. I can't imagine all our kids here, and we're supporting them. And I'm assuming you're all parents, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And you're pushing your kids through all this, and somebody offers them a pill at a party, and everybody else is taking a pill. And that pill that they took just had a little bit too much fentanyl in it. And they died. I can't get past that. So that's why I'm here. So, and that's what basically they're saying. They want to create a strategy to try to address this, and it has to be a national strategy. Otherwise, it's not going to get out. But, and the only reason I kept this in there, these are high-ranking people from the Houston area, and that's a billboard they created about fentanyl kills. We really need to have a national strategy to advertise and say, and send it to our kids. So my oldest son, I mean, he's well on his way. He's a physician. He's in his third year of residency in the Baylor system. So I don't really have to lecture him. He knows better. You know, I mean, if I have to tell him, you know, because he tells me everything now. But my daughter, she graduated from West Point a year and a half ago. She's at Stanford getting a physics degree and a master's in physics. And then she goes into aviation after June, after she graduates. I can't wrap my head around her taking a pill from somebody, even though I don't think she would. But if you followed West Point like a little year ago, a bunch of football players got in trouble. It's after she graduated, but they had done cocaine or something that showed up in their system. I don't remember what it was. I don't know what happened to them, but West Point is really tough on the honor system. If you caught lying, cheating on a test, that is their pinnacle. Man, you are out. Any kind of lie or fib, if they think you lied, you go before the honor board and you're out. So for them even to still be doing drugs, chancing it, you know people are at risk just to take a pill. But the pill has to be treated like it's a cyanide pill. If you take it, there's more than a 50% chance, if it's in 70% of the pills that they're testing, there's kind of a 70% chance you might die. Would you play with those odds? So I don't know. They keep reinforcing to your kids. Absolutely don't do that. Or if you see your friends and they're at risk, you think they're hanging out with, absolutely don't take pills. You know, you could still show up in other products, but I think the chances of our kids probably using heroin is a lot less than taking a pill. To me, the pills are the risk. But so they have a strategy. And this very last one, I teach at A&M. I'm a part-time, I'm an adjunct for a long time. I teach criminal justice. So I gave the little thing spiel about fentanyl, and this is my last thing, to my class. And right after the class, one of my students emailed me. She came from Beaumont School District. Graduates with Blaine. He's a real big guy. He goes to play football for Rice University in Houston. and he has some pain injuries, and one of his co-teammates gives him a hydrocodone pill to take care of the pain. It had fentanyl in it. But not just fentanyl, it had carfentanil. Carfentanil is about 100 times more powerful than heroin. So it's amped up even for fentanyl, and it killed him. And excuse me, that's a guy that's obviously well over 200 pounds. It didn't matter, it killed him. So then his family went on this campaign to say if it happened to us, it could happen to anybody, and to go give speeches and whatever else. But that family's not the only one. If you start Googling it and looking around, there's other families around the country that they just can go, in the corner and just consider it to be a tragedy within the family. They're trying to spread the word so it doesn't happen to other folks, which it's going to. So as sad as that is, that's my presentation.
Certainly appreciate it. Wow, that was deep and informative. Does anybody have any comments or anything they'd like to kind of add or share just from this year's experience, just from, abuse and prevention with drugs, alcohol, and just anything like that? Doesn't have to necessarily be fentanyl, but since that is the topic, has that been an issue from anybody's perspective? Ms. Vega?
We did have a kid at the high school whose boyfriend died. In Taft, I think he was Taft, and he just recently died. And so it's right here. Scary.
Yeah, and, the lab report's pretty much, and this is from the ME, but it's common anywhere, I think. They don't do the lab, in the ME's office, they send it off. And it takes at least a couple months, and then you can see what kind of drugs are in their system, or if fentanyl is in there. But just think how many people might go to the hospital, and they're, whatever they give them. Oh, another thing too is naloxone. Naloxone? Narcan is the name for it. It's a spray, nasal spray. And I carry that in my car, but the people we work with in Boston area, they're a nonprofit. They came down and trained us about how to coach people that we catch with drugs into trying to accept treatment instead of being arrested. And that is our plan as a police department, is to move into that arena. So we're working with MHID, or Mental Health and Intellectual Disabilities, to create a better, it'd be like a diversion or recovery center. And that's probably less than 2 years away because they have to do some remodeling of their buildings. But that would give us as a police department somewhere to drop people off who are having mental issues, emotional issues, but they don't really fit for the commitments. And SHAC up in San Antonio, SHAC is really not, we can't use it anymore. It's mostly forensic beds. Forensic means they're waiting for trial, and they're not competent for trial. There's hardly any civilian type beds in there. There's nowhere to send them. And we have a lot of folks in Corpus that we encounter, and the homeless are among them. They have substance abuse problems and emotional issues, or both. Like a Venn diagram, they overlap. And then we're trying to find a better way than just arresting people. We've had one guy that we arrested over 10 years, and he disappeared for a couple of years, over about a 10-year period. We arrested him close to 400 times. Isn't that crazy? We're still arresting him.
I have a question. Earlier, you had touched a little bit on how unless fentanyl is, mixed in with another substance or another product, the dogs are unable to detect it. Is that something that, we're working towards, or
No.
is there a reason behind that?
You're going to kill a dog. So they carry naloxone for dogs. It's our naloxone. So if we have a dog that smells and gets that, it'll have an effect on their nervous system. It'll kill the dog. So you don't want a dog sniffing anything that's going to be fentanyl, like pure fentanyl, because if it is, it could kill the dog.
Has that happened? Have you had?
Not to my knowledge, but we've had, there was a big rumor going around for quite a while that you could touch fentanyl and it would go through your skin and knock you out. And that's not true. I went through some training with experts, and these folks too, I consider them to be experts. If you touch fentanyl, your epidermis is going to keep it from going through your skin. The thing is, if you have some of it there and it's, gets stirred up and you smell that, it doesn't take very much. So there's some YouTubes of officers. You can Google it, YouTube of officer passing out from fentanyl, because everybody's wearing a body cam now. and they're capturing stuff like that. So there was one female officer I watched, she's passed out, and they said it was fentanyl. So we do carry naloxone now in our cars in the PD. And what we do, we have these cases that we check out when we go to a briefing into the car to start. Those cases have a 40 millimeter launcher, which is less than deadly force, but it's a big sponge that we can knock somebody down with. If we have to try to get them in control and they have a knife or whatever, and we can't talk them down. So it's something better than having to shoot somebody if we don't have to shoot them, if we use something else. And in those cases, we also carry naloxone, because you're not supposed to leave it in cars and too hot. And the expiration, in case you ever do have naloxone, they told us is don't throw it out because it's good for 10 years after expiration. After expiration, they won't sell it to you. But then those people out of the PARA unit out of Boston came down here a few months back and they brought a couple hundred units with us. So I invited everybody locally that I could think of, any police agency, and for 2 hours of training sitting in a classroom, they got 2 nasal things of naloxone, which I have in my unit. They're a little spray. He sprayed in one nostril, one spray, and it blocks receptors. So somebody going through a heroin overdose or fentanyl, it'll bring them back if they're still alive. And they have something now, xylazine. It's an animal. It's a horse tranquilizer. It's not meant for human consumption. The drug dealers are putting that on. It's a real powerful sedative. That won't, if you have somebody that has that in their system, it's not an opiate. So there's a lot of drugs out there that naloxone has no effect on because it's not an opiate. It's only for your opiates.
Do you have a card?
Yes. No, I don't have a get out of jail card. If I did, I'd use it for me.
No, I network with the social workers of the Coastal Bend, and so I thought I'd put you in, like, for the schools, so I can put you in contact with them, maybe you can do a presentation and then get the administration on board.
I'll leave some copies of the PowerPoint, they're in color, if anybody wants one. I think this one, yeah, this is the one that I just showed. The one, I culled it down a little bit from the one that he showed because he had a bubble map of where all the overdoses are. And the bubble map just shows kind of where the population of the country is. The population of the country is on, along the borders of the sea on both sides, and that's where the overdoses are. It's where your population's at. But Boston, I couldn't believe Boston was hit so hard. I went on 2 different field trips to the East Coast last year. So I said, you must think I'm a professional board person, but I'm the vice chair of the MHID, the mental health. I sit on their board. And it's a kind of marriage made in heaven to have us, the police, being part of that. Because it's some direct say, a lot of our clients that we have to make calls on, including the homeless, have emotional conditions, have mental conditions, from schizophrenia, depression, everything else. So we're trying to work together to create a model that's ahead of the game, because you look at why they want to defund police around the country. You know what? It's because you're using us for everything, because we're there. You're using us for this, for that, for making an arrest, because there's no criminal trespass, Get them off our property, we arrest them, and they go right back because they're not prosecuting those. They're not prosecuting most criminal trespasses. Not unless there's some violence attached to it, they're just going to dismiss that case. So we're trying to look at better ways to use the social agencies, your mental health, your alcohol, substance abuse, your Senate corps, all of those, they're all around, to use those. And it's called a sequential intercept model. So when we make calls on people, we see they're falling, instead of letting them fall in the bottom, which is our policing criminal justice world where they commit a crime, we're trying to pull them off every chance we become aware of them and put them in proper treatment. So my selling point too is if you think of your immediate family, cousins, and your extended, your family. Do you have anybody in there that suffered from alcoholism, from substance abuse, from schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, or just made bad decisions, or attempted suicide or suicide? Every one of those in my family, my cousins, my immediate family, my nieces and stuff, every one of those has affected my family. Every single one of them. And if you were to ask me, hey, would you want them to get arrested and let them fall straight down to the bottom? Or anytime the police come across them, we just give up and walk away because we don't have any resources to point them to. And of course not. Every one of them, I'd say, I want to pull off here, any chance to give them treatment. So once you end up in the very bottom, including for substance abuse disorders and alcoholism, it's hard to climb out of that. It's hard to explain that if you want to get a job later and if you're young. So part of the restoration center we're looking at is having a sobriety center. In a sobriety center, if we have somebody that's not violent and we arrest them for drunk, we put them in there, but we don't arrest them. We transport them. They sober up after 4 hours. They have to stay there. But then they walk away and then they never get entered in our criminal justice or municipal court. They walk away because they made a bad decision. I met the Austin Police Chief a few months ago at a conference. And I talked to them, and I look forward to maybe visiting theirs. They have a sobriety center, but theirs isn't mostly homeless they serve, it's college students. Go up and down 6th Street. They're away from home, they get wasted drunk, they act like a fool, they get arrested. So here they can, as long as they're not violent, they can let them sober up and let them, otherwise, how do you explain that later on you want to get a Homeland Security job or something else? You can say, well, I got put in a sobriety center, but you don't have to explain why I got arrested and had to pay a fine. Or, so it is a way that we're trying to move. And as you know too, the legislature too really changed directions. CCISD, not that long ago, was issuing citations for kids on campus that weren't in the classrooms for being truant. Because they said, you're not where you're supposed to be, you're over here, and it's clearly, you know you're not in the right place. In the legislature, more than a few years ago now, but they shut that down. They want to treat it administratively, so you're not taking all your kids and throwing them to us, to the wolves. Yeah, I'm sorry to say it, but yeah. Trying to push them along. Restorative justice. Well, thank you for having me. I hope you find a way to get the word out without making parents think that the sky's falling. But it has to be out when you're on spring break in 2 weeks. Then when you're on the beach or whatever else, some of your students will probably get alcohol or whatever else. There's not going to be fentanyl and alcohol, but certainly will be in pills.
Well, we certainly appreciate your time and everything you do. I'll be honest, I haven't heard anything on fentanyl, so to me, everything I heard today was brand new and definitely eye-opening. It just seems like the more we go forward into the future, the more hardcore and extreme drug use is. And I'm just afraid to even ask what the next level of the fentanyl is going to be for the next generation of students, because none of this stuff was around when I was a student. I never even thought to take a pill that wasn't prescribed to me. But nowadays, it's just so easy, and as you showed with the Skittles and just making it more attractive to the younger generation, I can definitely see that being just a problem that if we don't have something in place to try to prevent a lot of this, it's just going to continue to snowball.
And there's no end to it. The drug dealers, they're making so much from the Pablo Escobars.
Yes.
To hire the chemists to figure out easy ways to. That's how crack came about. They make cocaine. You can't smoke cocaine, but you can smoke crack. And crack is just cocaine with baking soda and water. So they figured out a simple way to make it a different drug, and it affected the crime rate throughout the whole country in the 80s and not early 90s. The violent crime skyrocketed because crack was so devastating. So there's no end to it. So it's just a matter of you have to keep talking to your kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have we had conversations with our students about fentanyl or just anything like that? It's almost like uncharted territory, right? How do we really talk about something like that?
Yeah, we did THC and vaping, but that was about it, and they really didn't respond well. They
Right.
just took it as a joke, even though it was just information. So I don't know if we start at like our detention center first and catch them and then move
work our way
on.
back on that.
Yeah.
That's a good point, because I'll be honest, I haven't had any luck with having an effective drug abuse prevention program. It's either treated like it's a joke, or this doesn't apply to me because I don't do drugs, but then again, that ends up being the person at the party on Friday night that makes that one bad choice, right? And wasn't paying attention to anything of what was going on with the prevention programs on campus. When you mentioned about Beaumont, that's kind of where my previous district was. I used to be the high school principal at Lumberton High School in Lumberton, Texas, which is about 10 or so odd miles north of Beaumont. I would consider it the Cal Allen of Beaumont, if you kind of want to put it to a comparison. My biggest problem out there wasn't achievement, wasn't parent engagement, wasn't enrollment, it was drug use. It was just drug use. I mean, the amount of things, the amount of pens, the amount of dope, the amount of bags, the amount of grams, bars, you name it, I found it. It was almost daily. for my first 6 months there. I was finding something every day. By the end of our first semester, the amount of paraphernalia from vapes and just pens was enough to fill like a 20-gallon like storage box. And that was like first semester. Labeled it fall 2019 over here, and then spring another one. And by the end of the year, it was just like 2 massive storage containers of just contraptions. I don't even know what half the stuff was because it's either broken or whatever, but it just blew me away. It's like I could open up my own gas station shop right now with just the stuff I collected just this school year. From the things I just found. That doesn't even include the stuff I didn't catch or didn't know about, but it was just to the point where if I didn't have something in place to try to address it through a prevention program, it never was gonna get better. And so that was kind of what I did before I left, was implement a program that was going to go through a series and around where advisory period and things like that, there was dedicated time to address all this in a series so that, you know, there was a beginning, middle, and end. It would catch everything in between, but it was all part of like a comprehensive school-wide program. And I didn't know if that was something we really need to look into as far as maybe doing something here in the district. If nothing else, just to be more on the preventive side, the proactive side rather than the reactive. But y'all tell me.
I think if we could reduce the sizes of the student populations that go, because I know for our CODA one where they talked about THC and vaping, it was a grade level per class period. And it was just so hard to control them and get them to take it seriously. But if we could do it like maybe just 2 classes or 3 classes at a time and just do multiple presentations, I feel like they would take it more seriously.
I found that the more whole group you are, the better off you are. Like, if you've got your grade, if you do a grade level and you put them in like the auditorium or some sort of more of a professional, serious setting, cafeteria and the gym don't work. Like, I do not do anything in the gym, just because that to me is the telltale signs of kids not wanting to take things seriously. But auditorium, or if you announce it where everybody's aware and teachers are on duty and you got good supervision and everybody's kind of on the same page with it, it can be pretty effective.
But are you saying that that didn't work for y'all?
Yeah, that didn't work.
Yeah,
We were in the auditorium,
Yeah.
but if we did smaller
Classrooms
groups,
So you're wanting more of a targeted class by class approach.
yes. I
We
think
need
that
to-
would
we
be
need to
more
do that.
effective, yeah.
We need to do that for sure.
Well, I'm super excited.
That's part
for
of
my
our social
presentation.
emotional learning curriculum. But on another note, go ahead.
Oh,
Jackie.
I'm super excited for my presentation then. So, are y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay, well, so I do have some handouts. I understand that y'all have handouts as well. The first and the last page of the handout I'm giving you, just ignore, okay? Because you already have that in your hand. Alrighty, and if y'all need more, let me know.
And Mr. St. John, have y'all done anything at the middle school at all? Or is it just at the high school level?
Do we have plans to do something?
We have not discussed that.
Alrighty. Okay, so my name is Jackie. I am with Project Turnaround. I am the prevention coordinator there. Let me also get situated here. I'm gonna take away this USB. Well, this is a different format, but we're gonna adjust accordingly. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have my presentation.
That's impossible.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Okay, we're gonna go super old school. All right, so anywho, we're just gonna roll with it. So I'm part of youth programs. Youth programs is housed within the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation. We're in Corpus Christi, but we service 11 different counties. For me, I service 8 different counties, so I'm a little bit smaller, but try to go out everywhere. We really focus on our rural communities because they are the ones who need us as much as possible. They just need that extra support. But let's talk about the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation just a little bit more. So the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation has been in the works, or in work, for about 37 years now. We first started out as the Coastal Bend AIDS Foundation. We targeted men who have sex with men. However, now we just do a little bit of anything and everything. We've grown so much, in fact, that we have an extension, and we are going to continue expanding. When I first started about a year and a half ago, we had 80 employees. We now have 150, so we have been growing immensely. We have 25 different projects. So we have everything that you can think of. We have Project Road, Project Reach. We also do Narcan training. I carry Narcan with me all of the time. We go to Centercourt, which is what he was talking about. It's the rehab facility there in Corpus Christi, formerly known as Charlie's Place. And we do a parenting class over there. If you go to the, I believe, 3rd or 4th page, there's a pamphlet there, or there's a flyer there talking about our additional parent support that we're going to be doing. It will be held at the Old Carroll location in Corpus Christi as well, so a little bit of a drive, but we would love to see you there. It's happening every Tuesday. It will be there from 6 to about 7:30 for any questions or activities that we have. And if you are there on a consistent basis, you can also enter a raffle. We have a whole bunch of stuff from our community support that we are getting, like Dave and Buster's, HEB gift cards, and the list goes on. So some of the things that we do here at the Coastal Bend Wellness Foundation is we have clinical services. We have the Pride Center. We are actually this way south, so San Antonio South. We are one of the only Pride Centers that we have here in Corpus Christi. So we have a whole bunch of alliances there. Anything that you see that is Pride related, we have our hands on it because it is facilitated with us. We have client services, we have clinical services as well. Behavioral health, so we are a federally funded mental health facility too. Community health outreach, women's health services, which is really awesome. We just got a grant approved to conduct pap smears and also HPV prevention and aid. We also fit women who have had mastectomies due to breast cancer for free. All of our things that we do are free. If you are a client with us, we have a sliding scale. So if you have insurance, if you don't have insurance, we're there for you. We have a pharmacy as well, which is awesome. It's brand new. We're renovating it a little bit because we're just growing so much. And then youth programs, little me. We are displaced because we did grow up a little bit too much. So my office is downtown. I know, I have the view, but it is really nice to see. And hopefully we're back inside of our clinic so that way we can do a lot more stuff that we were doing. We used to do like a streaming site. We used to have meetings with the youth and with the parents on site. So now we have to outsource those places, which I don't mind. It gets our community involved, but I liked having it there so that way we could have a safe space for the youth that we would see. So, what is Project Turnaround? So Project Turnaround, and we do have 3 projects within our program, so I know we have project, right? So Project Turnaround, what I do is I teach K through 12, right? Quote unquote, if you go to any prevention education in alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs, ATOD, it's usually from the cradle to the grave, right? So we do the parenting presentations at Centercourt and the ones on Tuesdays at the Old Carroll location. We also do 3 different types of curriculum. So one of them being the parent presentation. The other one is called Too Good for Drugs. That one has been in observance for 25 years officially, but they were founded in 1978. The other, in addition to that one, is CBSG. And we'll go in a little bit more depth. I know I'm just kind of throwing terms at you, so don't be scared. What we aim to do is we focus on behavioral health and social determinants of health, right? So behavioral health, why are we coping this way? So that way we're not coping that way. Why are we managing emotions? So that way we're not having outbursts, right? So I won't see you at SSE or DAEP. Why are we effectively communicating with our loved ones, with people who are supposed to be either dating us or in friendship, or even with our counselors and teachers, right? Again, it's just to be proactive rather than an antisocial type of environment, right? And antisocial, I don't mean the the term where you're describing someone, oh, they have an antisocial personality. That's not what I mean. I do mean antisocial as in actively hurting the society that we are in. We also have 2 other projects though. So Project Hope, they work with policy change, so they will fund, for free again, they will fund the signs that are outside that say this is a drug-free zone. They will create policies. They will make sure that firsthand, secondhand, and thirdhand smoke are prevented through policy change. And then we also have Resiliency Project. They have been renewed for another 90 days, so we love to hear that. And hopefully, as their new grant cycle starts, we can get them a little bit more permanent. But they are more about the COVID or the negative impact that COVID has had in regards to prevention education. So we talk about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs with them too. They reduce stress, and they also try to implement positive alternatives, so painting activities. Tonight they're doing a positive painting at the Gulf Coast Humane Society, which is really cool. And we also partnered up with JJC, the Juvenile Justice Center in Nueces County, and they're getting community hours for the youth that are there. So that's really awesome, and something that I always like to kind of hone in on. We have, oh, okay. That's my bad. Okay. And then, so these are the 8 counties that we see. Unfortunately, the other 2 counties are only in 3 of them. I am in 8. So we just don't go as far as Live Oak, Duval, and Refugio. I always have issues with that one. We used to, however, we just got a little too big, a little too fast. So we will be trying to get back out there in our next grant cycle. So in about 2 years, we should be back out there. Usually what we like to do is we try to partner up with all 3 projects. So if we do backpack drives, if we do any type of community engagement, we try to have all 3 on site. We're going to be in a couple of backpack drives this summer. So if y'all are wanting to them, we would love to help you out. We provide the backpacks, and we try to do some sort of like big attraction, bouncy houses, traveling zoos, something like that. All right, so Project Turnaround, we have 2 different curriculum, like I said, right? They are TA, TEKS, and HHSC approved. So we anything you're like, oh, well, I don't know, don't worry, we got it, okay? We have an MOU, we've had a previous MOU with TMISD. We're just trying to get another one out there, of course. We do a lot of prevention education. We do positive alternatives. We did a seminar with breakout sessions previously a couple months ago, I believe. So we're always trying to get our hands on some sort of community engagement. Now for Too Good for Drugs, which is the one that should be pulled up. Too Good for Drugs is an 11-week, I know it says 10-week, it is technically 10. We put a extra first week, like a pre-week in there, so that way we're not just coming in and telling them like, no, please don't do drugs, right? So we introduce ourselves, we say, hey, this is the packet that's going to go home to mom and dad or to your guardian, please look it over with them, because it's an opt-out form. So if the parent says, no, I don't think Miss Jackie needs to give my kid this information, I'll do it, my feelings won't get hurt, I just need proof of that, that's all. How it's set up is in the first 10 weeks, the first unit, we talk about the skills, right? So the interpersonal skills. We're going to be talking about managing emotions, the healthy relationships, the effective communication, and then we build on that skill in Unit 2. This is where we introduce over-the-counter medicines, harmful substances, and applying these skills from Lesson 1 in this area, right? Where peer pressure might be coming around. Now keep in mind, I teach K through 12, and parents, I'm not going to be talking about the same thing that I would in high school with my little ones, right? That doesn't make any sense. It's all based on their maturity, on their level of comprehension, and I'm not trying to introduce them to something before they're ready, right? And we do try to, what we've seen in the past, and in Odom is a really good example, is if we get them in the K through 5 area, and we grow with them. So the first year we see K1, 2, And then the following year, we'll see 3, 4, 5. As we grow with them, it works a little bit better. And then we grow with them into the middle school. And in the high school, we kind of keep our hands off of the curriculum. And then we do mainly like presentations because that's more effective with them. They have a little bit more game time too, or activity time. And they love that. And I love it too, especially at that age. When they're kind of like finding that other people will judge them and they're not feeling so open to being judged and having fun. And then me making them have fun is, well, it's my fun. Alrighty. So, in front of you, in your little packet, remember I just said you can do away with the first one, so that's all right. You already have that one. The second one breaks down, and I have it kind of split up a little bit. The second one breaks down what your lessons are going to be. So it says sessions 1 through 10 because we see the youth 10 times in this curriculum. And each one has different topics, different goals, and different subjects, right? There's the first 5 that you can see. That's going to be talking about like your friendship, developing skills, developing communication. The last 6 through 10, that's going to be talking about like the tobacco, the drinking. You can see some of those topics in those bolded words. Well, not bolded words, but words that will kind of jump out to you as you look at them on the page. You might see like Carmen, and you might see Tuggles, you might see Wagner. Those are little props. We do bring puppets to make sure that they're engaged, you know, so that way they're talking about a serious topic, but they're also having fun with it, right? We found that to be more effective than without, for sure. On the back of it, like I said, we see K through 12. On the back, though, this is going to be the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Again, the high school, we love to do high school. Sometimes it's a little bit harder with all the testing, and we totally get that. With the testing, what we try to do is we try to get them in the first quarter. I understand that we're in the third quarter, or we're in my third quarter at least. But if you want to start tomorrow, I don't mind. We'll start tomorrow, okay? We want to be in schools. That's why we are in jobs and in works, right? But going back to this, you can see every single one from 6th to high school starts with goal setting and decision making because that's the core foundation of your life, right? This is also where we're going to be talking about like middle school is setting up for high school. Kind of think about the courses you're wanting to take, right? The friends that you're going to be around, the activities that you're going to be around, because tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are, right? And then towards the end, we talk about over-the-counter drugs, the misuse of it, and then a good little segue into misuse is that we no longer call it abuse anymore. As of 2020, and since I've been employed with this facility, we have done away with abuse. Because there is a negative stigma, almost like a you're less than, and you're not, right? So we call it substance use disorder or substance misuse, right? Because you can use it correctly or you can misuse it. So those are the 2 terms that we try to use and we avoid abuse. All right. So I know we skipped a few. Well, we didn't skip a few. I skipped a few on here because I just kind of bolded it up a little bit, or enhance it so you can see it on there. Now we're going to segue into our second curriculum. So this one is called Curriculum-Based Support Groups, okay, or CBSG for short, and for the kids' sake. I don't really like calling it CBSG because it's just like a little acronym that I'm throwing at them, but it's actually called either Rainbow Days or Youth or Kids Connection. So we just call it Kids Connect. This one has been in Dallas. It's based out of Dallas, which is awesome, since 1982. This one is a 12-week course, so it's a little bit more extensive and it's a little bit more intimate with the youth too. In that, where the universal, I go in, y'all are my youth, right, pretend, and there might be 30 of you. Whereas for this curriculum, I'll go into a boardroom, I'll go into a counselor's office, and I might see a maximum of about maybe 8 kids. This is going to be for the youth who need a little bit more support. Maybe they have truancy. Maybe they have abuse at home, right? Maybe there is evidence of misuse at home of drugs. Maybe they're withdrawn from school and that they seem a little bit less tentative or interested as they used to be. This is going to be the kids who do need a little bit extra support. We do have an assessment referral for teachers that I do send out. Depending on their assessment, I'll be like, oh, actually, Salome doesn't really benefit from this curriculum in particular, or maybe there was a red flag in maybe sexual abuse, and we're not certified in any sexual health or abuse. I'm prevention of ATOD. So I would refer you out to someone in our facility who does that, or potentially to the Purple Door. So Kids Connect, if we can see on here, is from ages 4 to 12, whereas Youth Connection is from 10 to 17. So there is a little overlap, right, from 12 to 10. And that is for me or the specialist to go in and talk to the students, kind of assess, see what their needs are. Are they needing the Youth Connection if they're 12, right, and they're advanced and they are able to handle it? Or is it maybe a place where they're not really grasping it, and I realize that the activities in Kids Connection for that 12-year-old are going to be a little bit more at home with them. So we'll go in and we'll assess it. We'll see where they are in the development and in understanding, so that way we're not leaving anybody behind. Again, I do have my little free tags on there. We are free of charge. Okay, so for this one, you have in front of you, this is going to be the breakdown of the lessons as well. And if you notice that if you go front and back, they're exactly the same. The reason being is because it's the same material. All the things that do change is going to be verbiage, right? Again, I'm not going to talk about the things with my 17-year-olds that I would with the 4-year-olds, with my littles. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't want to baby my 17-year-olds, although I want to, but I won't do that, right? We do also have the 5 major messages at the very bottom. Those are the things that we're trying to implement. So a good one is lesson 5. This is the dream and goal setting. I love the goal setting because it's universal. We see that in the Too Good for Drugs or the TFDG. And it's something that really benefits the youth and we kind of stick with. For that one, we do an activity with dream catchers as well, hence, dream goal setting. And they create a dream catcher, and right now in Leon Taylor and Ingleside, they have just finished this one, and it was so cute, and they were talking about it, and I covered one of my specialists because they were ill, and they're like, oh, Miss, so I go by Miss Chicken in class. They're like, oh, Miss Chicken, look at this, and they were talking about their dreams, and it was a good conversation, and it's a guided conversation discussion is what we do with them. But going back to the 5 messages, so for that one, this one was implementing the I am capable of my dreams. I am capable of this goal that I have made. Each lesson will have a variation of them, and sometimes we'll even do a combination if we feel like the class needs a little bit of a support in that area. Now, like you said earlier, and I was kind of eavesdropping, although it was right in front of me too. Y'all were talking about how it's not beneficial if we have the class in a gym or in like a library. Man, I couldn't agree more. We've tried to do that one time and I was very patient, but it was testing my patience, I will say. But per our MOU and for the developers of our curriculum as well, they suggest for us not to do that too. So we do usually go into a class that is not tested. So if it's like 6th grade, maybe social studies. Usually it's easier to do the elementary, but 6th grade is usually our sweet spot because there's not as much testing as 8th grade, right? In high school, we probably won't do anything junior year because that's a really big year for them. Senior year, towards the end in 3rd quarter, that's when we're kind of, popular because everybody's wanting something for the youth to do during that time. And I totally get it, right? So usually what we do is we go in a classroom setting against usually about 30 kids. And we do a presentation that way. However, with that being said, that is curriculum. We do presentations too. In our presentations, what we do, like a good example today, is in Rivera. So near Kingsville right now. I have 3 specialists out there, and what they're doing is a THC, CBD, and tobacco vaping presentation for about 45 minutes, and they're seeing all of their middle school and all of their high school. It is a smaller school, so it's about 300 youth that they're seeing. It's going to be in their gym. It's a little bit different. We have T-shirts and incentives and other teachers as well to kind of keep everybody in check, of course, but that is something that is available. So we do prevention education presentations. We also do positive alternative activities. So just like I said, how our TRP, our resiliency project with COVID. What they do is like positive paints and stuff. We do the same thing. Right now I'm getting ready for our summer and for our spring, so I'm ordering a lot of slime. That's a big hit right now. Yesterday we were at the Grow Local in Corpus Christi. They just did their launch of SNAP benefits, and we're also there. This is our 4th week going, and we did a presentation about coping skills, but we also do an activity with them. So we'll bring Play-Doh, and although I didn't have slime at the time, we did do Play-Doh. We had glitter and we had beads, and we also had the week before that, we have these shirts that we have made for us, and it says Positive Mind, Vibe, and Life, Project Turnaround. And we have these color markers that are resistant to washing, but they are like for fabrics. And they were able to create their own shirt or design or draw on PD, which is our mascot. Stands for Prevention Education to Every Youth, PD. So it's a good way to kind of get them involved and kind of, you know, a little bit more distracted while the parents are trying to get food or any type of resource that the Grow Local has for them. That's awesome. So we do have a lot of presentations. I believe this is a slide. Yes. So we go over goal setting and decision making and healthy relationships. Those are probably our more common ones. Another one that's going to be common, especially right now, is tobacco and nicotine presentations. Especially the vaping. Right now we're at JJC, which is the Juvenile Justice Center in Corpus Christi. And what we're doing there is it's a diversion program. So those who are first-time offenders with THC vapes or vapes, in Nueces County, it is a felony charge, no matter what, whether it's first, second, or third time. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to not get it on their record because it's pretty lengthy process, but it's also a life-changing process too, especially at such a young age. What has also just happened is we've gone 2 or 3 times now, and they are now implementing that. They're upping the ante, right? It just used to be 2 presentations and then they're done. Now it's 1 presentation and 15 hours of community service. There we go. Community service with us. Or some sort of resource in the Nueces County. So we are there. We are trying to have a positive change in that aspect. So that is something that is very popular. But we also talk about like social norms, positive alternatives, different things. We talk about addiction. We talk about fentanyl because a lot of the things that people don't know is that you can put fentanyl in anything that you can take apart and put it back together, right? So vapes, you can take apart, you can put it back together. You can actually lace certain things in there too. I'm nearing the end, I promise. Okay, so let me talk about where we are right now, right? So we're right here, we're in 3rd quarter. And if you wanted to start tomorrow, again, that's what I want to do, right? We have 6, well, including myself, 6 specialists who go out to schools, presentations, curriculum. We're always needing curriculum, especially for YPI. So YPI is the indicated, the smaller groups, the 8 per class. And usually what we do is we'll have 1 YPU specialist out there. They'll go see that class, that 30 people class. And from those 30, it can quickly turn into like 26 or 27, right? And those other 3 would go to a different area with the YPI specialist and get that extra support that they're needing. So that way, we're not at the school too many times and getting time cut away from the teachers that they need, especially during testing times as well. So we try to be mindful, and we're thankful for any time that we do get with the youth that we see. So let's talk about Project Hope. Project Hope, again, I kind of gave you a little bit of synopsis earlier, just very quickly. They're a community coalition. If you want to get on there, I can totally get you in contact with the coordinator. His name is Jonathan. He's great. The community partnership, something that they're doing currently, or will be doing currently, is April 1st is not only April Fool's Day, but is also Community Cleanup Day. So it used to be called Kick Butts, right? So this is where we get our youth involved, and we've rebranded it because it's opened up to the community now. We are together with Say What. They provide vests, buckets, and sometimes even volunteer work, but we also do like our own work too. We try to get about 90 people and even more youth, and it's a one day from 9 to about 12:30, so in the morning, 9 a.m. to 12:30. The youth aren't always ecstatic about that, but it is good community service, and also it looks good on resumes if they are trying to build it. And we clean up anything that you see, whether it's vapes, whether it is cigarette butts, depending on what it is, right? We do have a training class too for the adults that are attending the youth there. And if there's anything like needles or anything that is paraphernalia, we will pick it up, and it's the adults who will be picking it up, not the youth. So it's in order to get the youth involved, but we do it safely too. I think I sped up to the end. No, I don't know. Okay, so in the last like 2 or 3 slides, all I was going to be talking about was our TRP, just kind of reiterating again that they are for the COVID extension. They are doing resource fairs. They're trying to get renewed, so if you are trying to get on board with them, or if you're trying to do any type of like community event, maybe for the teachers you do a paint night, or you come during the lunch, we come during the lunch, we come to you, and we do some sort of coping skill with them, that'd be great. We can totally set that up. Teachers and social workers and anybody who's in the social health or even any type of health tend to be forgotten about. So don't forget about yourselves. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? One of the other slides was going to be talking about just how to get in contact with me. Of course, I'm here, right? But also on your page 3, so your second to last, there's a QR code. That QR code is going to take you to our Facebook, our Instagram, our TikTok, our YouTube. If you want to call the main line and say, hey, this crazy lady called Miss Chicken, I need to get her in contact with her, they'll transfer you to me, don't worry. If there's anything that you were interested in, like we have Project Road and Reach, those are the ones who are going to be going out and servicing those who are in the older demographic or the more mature demographic who would be in needing of help or Narcan, or maybe they're needing of a case manager of some sort. We are there for you. So it's great. We are a great service. I would definitely push you and encourage you to use our facility as much and as best as you can. There isn't one thing that you could think of that we don't do. I will tell you that. And then I guess the last thing is just that Strengthening Families curriculum. That's the parent presentation and curriculum that we do. That one is a 10-week course. It's going to be every week that you go. You might, if you go in next week, you might catch in on the 3rd lesson, and that's okay. We'll just kind of catch you up a little bit and sit in on that one, okay? Again, this one, it talks about how to communicate with your youth, how to communicate with your loved ones, whether you are together or not together. It also talks about how to communicate and care for yourself, too. So again, you can't pour from an empty cup. This kind of reiterates that. It's a 10-week course. We're in the works to get it certified to where if someone, like a parent in SSC or JJC or DAEP, if they go there, they get some sort of proof that they have gone, that it can work towards the program that they are trying to check off, right? So if they need a parenting class, or if at Synacor, maybe they're outpatient, they can come to us and potentially also get a check off too. So we're in the works of that. It's not happened yet, but that is something that is on our plate that we're trying to do.
Can we do something our end? Would that be?
Yeah, so like if you wanted to come, is that what you're saying?
So like, for example, I have students who owe hours.
I'll say, I know where you're going with this one.
There's a couple of layers. There's parents that just have asked, is there something available? So would that be high school age as well?
So
Is it too young?
this one would be a little bit too young. This one is going to be geared mainly towards the parent demographic. So anybody who's like probably 18 and older.
No, I mean, would it be, so it's too for the little ones and their parents?
Like if they accompany?
Yeah, so our families.
No, that's perfectly fine. If they're
This would work for them?
Yes, that would work for them. So if they are going in addition to, that's perfectly fine. right? We're gonna be talking about alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs in certain lessons. But what we're trying to do is also do an activity with the youth, so maybe there's a separation. The curriculum is guided towards having the youth there present with them though. So that way they can do their own breakout session. Yeah.
And is this ongoing right now? Like
It's gonna be starting the 21st, so in about 2 to 3 weeks. After spring break, we're gonna be up and going.
And then we have a program like in our DAEP, and a lot of the kids really struggle. We don't have a lot of fighting or serious violent offenders. We do have a lot of vaping and drugs and alcohol kind of thing. And so if I were to say, hey, we're gonna send this student and maybe their parents to come to something like this, and maybe we could work out something where they get a couple of days off of
Yeah,
their
that's
DAP placement, that'll help us out.
I've done that in the past, so it can definitely be done.
So,
Well, let me tell you this. So right now we're in SSC, the Student Support Center in Corpus. And we have a bi-monthly parent meeting, right? So we talk about THC and vaping because the primary subject that everybody's there for. Last year, this time around, it was fighting. So it's funny to see in just a year what the change has been. So we do the bi-monthly, in addition to their 3-day program where I assume it's their first-time offenders or people who are on their way to potentially be the 30, 50-day sign-ons. And we do a presentation about coping skills because all it really is just a lack thereof, right? Of coping skills and then the introduction to the education of it. So this is why we don't do this, right? Because this is going to be you in however many years, potentially. So that's something that we could also facilitate at your facility. We would just get an MOU involved and come either on the other Mondays that we aren't at SSC. But again, we are a team of 5, so we will have people for you too.
oh wow, so how would I initiate that?
That's all you need. I do have my contact with Miss Amanda. I did give, because my other specialists are over there in Rivetta, and I gave them the last of my cards, so I do apologize about that. But she can disseminate my information, of course, and that QR code. And if you call this number at the very bottom, the 361-442, and do 104, or even just listen to the options, you're going to be listening for Jackie with Project Turnaround.
Because there's 2 Jackies.
Yes, there are 2 Jackies.
Project Turnaround, okay.
There you go. Alrighty. If you have any other questions, of course, you can get in contact with Amanda, and I'd love to help you in any way that I can.
We'll be following up with it. We'll be following up with an MOU.
And I just wrote that note down, exactly what you were saying, to talk to her about, so I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, that was already there before you even got there. So, just want to say, but no, I think that's great, because that to me is exactly where I would see it, at least at the high school level.
Yeah. Get them out of there faster too.
Well,
Just the character
I'm looking forward to
education.
everything that we'll do.
Okay. Care portal, are we gonna finally, okay.
It'll be quick, I promise.
So I need to pull up the stuff, right, please?
Yes, the slides. So we did talk a little bit about Care Portal at the last meeting, if y'all recall, as a resource for our families and the children, of course.
And I can
Okay, have at it.
wait.
Have at it.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone. My name is Brenda Kelly. As Amanda was saying, I know she's shared a little bit about Care Portal in your last meeting. I'm the regional manager for the Coastal Bend, and so that's covering quite a couple of counties. You have Sanpete, Nueces, Aransas, and Clayburgh. Here with us today, we also have Rose Reese, if you want to raise your hand, and I'll give her the opportunity if she'd like to share a little bit about the organization at the end of the presentation. But she works for our implementing partner, and you see the little logo up here. It's Agape. If some of you, I'm sure, are familiar with their work, they have a lot of great programs and different ways that they serve folks in the Coastal Bend and surrounding areas. And of course, we have Amanda, who all of you should know right now. I'm going to start off by sharing a video that talks a little bit about Care Portal, and then we'll just dive in.
If you hit slideshow up at the top, you see it, it's kind of hidden a little bit,
Yeah, I got it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Oh, maybe.
Hopefully we don't get the commercial part. Yeah, we're gonna get it.
Always, it's the best part, so I'm grateful, get out of the way.
Sorry
At
about
the
that.
bottom, you can make it big.
Okay, and just to follow up off of that video, what is Care Portal? So Care Portal is a tech platform that connects child-serving agencies such as pregnancy centers, child protective service agencies, schools, and I think in some states we have like fire departments. So just think of anyone that serves in that type of space as far as serving children. So what Care Portal does, it connects those types of agencies with faith community folks such as churches, to make meaningful connections and meet the needs of at-risk children and families here locally within your community. So what that may look like for us here at Teloso is, we'll say for this example, Amanda or anyone really identifies a need of a child, right? You sit down, you have those conversations with the child, with the parents, get their permission, you submit a request onto the platform, onto the portal. That request is also vetted, and Amanda can always share that with you at a later time. But what that means is we're not sharing any kind of personal or identifiable information, because once it's submitted, anyone in the world could really go onto the portal and read it. So they submit that request. The platform then sends out a message and reaches out to the nearest local churches around that family. And now these churches are actively enrolled and also in the Care Portal network. Someone from the church community decides, or even a community responder decides, hey, I want to help this student that I see, has been submitted over into Loso ISD. I want to help him with this backpack or this, box of groceries, or even just fellowship and, needing some type of guidance or mentorship. And the most important part of that is that they're able to make a meaningful, long-lasting connection. It's not a matter of, hey, let me go and drop off, these new shoes that this student needed. It's, hey, I'm 0.2 miles away from you. Let me go and deliver this need, but also how else can I serve you? How else can I just be there for you and walk alongside you and your family? Next, we have the circles of care. So at Care Portal, we do believe that the child is at the center of every request, and that child ideally should be surrounded by family. And family may look like biological family, right? Kinship, foster, adoption, you name it, we've seen it all. And oftentimes we find that those families are either unaware of the resources that are available to them out in the community, or they are aware, they just don't know how to tap into them. How do we access them? That's where the church, we think, is a perfect organization or just group of folks to step in and bridge those gaps and be able to find a way for the family to tap into those resources. Why are they the perfect fit? Well, they have folks, right? And we have churches everywhere within a community, very close to families, and they're called to do so. So they're wanting to help folks, and primarily children in their community. Over to the right, you have the grid. And what the grid is really displaying, and we'll focus on Tier 1 because that's what we have turned on and what we focus on in the Coastal Bend, is the level of engagement that these churches and communities will have with the children and their families. So you'll notice that Tier 1 goes across all the levels, right? So prevention, foster care, adoption, and transition. And Tier 1 looks like more of tangible needs, like I just mentioned earlier, shoes, clothing, food items, and we'll get into what those needs look like for Teloso here. Soon. Let's see. Amanda told me y'all don't need to learn any more about her than you already know. So this was just some information she shared with me back in December. I do, however, want to share some of the needs that she's identified here at the school district. She talked about things like food insecurity, housing insecurity, mental health, basic needs that we were just talking about earlier, clothing, shoes, utility bill, things of that nature. And then she also shared with me some really great programs and efforts that are already in place here at Teloso. Why does becoming a Care Portal requesting agency matter? And I'll just touch on a few of these. She shared that it would help connect families with their community, and again, provide that long-lasting support outside of the school. That, what do you do with the children during their breaks? Where do they go? I know that here they come to you all, which is great, but what do they do in the interim? And then, of course, data shows that it definitely helps with school attendance and their education, which is great. All right, so we will talk about the pilot phase. So I'm very excited to announce that we officially launched today, and today's day one of our pilot pilot phase, I'll say. And so that lasts 3 months. We just kind of think semester-wise. And so what happens during this pilot phase? So, Amanda and team, or whoever she decides to, recruit. I think in the meantime, it's really just going to be you. We'll identify needs, student needs, at Teloso High School. She will submit those needs, and we're looking at anywhere between 1 and 5 a month. And we will just pray to God that we get a response from the church community. And this is where the effort and collaboration comes into play. Earlier, I introduced Rose with Agape, and she can talk on it here in just a minute when I'm done, but what they primarily focus on, so they partner to implementing partner, Care Portal in the Coastal Bend as well. And what they focus on though is church engagement. So Rose is doing an amazing job since she started just a couple months ago, and we've already seen, an increase in the response rates, which is what we want to see as far as responding to those needs. And so she'll go out and deliver training. She'll have, interest meetings. Hey, I'm interested. I heard about Care Portal. What is it? And how can I help my community? And maybe in a little bit, she can share a little bit about what that looks like as far as how that's really, brought up or birthed and, what the efforts are as far as on her side. And so I focus on the agency side, and that's why I've been working a lot with Amanda. Okay, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rose, right now, as of yesterday that I saw, we currently have 6 churches that have committed to saying, yes, we will walk alongside Teloso ISD. We know that there's needs in our community. We hear you, we're ready, and we're excited to respond. So far, these are the churches that I have listed that are actively enrolled in Care Portal, ready to respond to your student needs. When I say committee, what that looks like, again, that's Rose leading those efforts on the church side and just getting them trained and prepared to be able to go and meet with these families. So they've already enrolled. They identify these are efforts that are in the works right now. They're identifying primary point people to lead in the response efforts. Let's see here. They're starting to create small response teams, and so those might look like specifically a youth group response team, right? So they know and they are, heavily involved in the youth program or the youth teams at church, and then knowing just how to approach the families with, maybe teams. Let's see, and other efforts are creating a plan for funding or having drives anticipating commonly requested items. I know Amanda's shared a lot about pantry items, and Rose has gotten in contact with one of the churches actually in the community that just started creating, and correct me if I'm wrong, creating pantry staple item boxes that, hey, if I get a request from Teloso ISD and it's for groceries, well, I have a box. How many do they need? How many children do they have? How can we help serve them? And Rose, I don't know if you want to expand or share something.
So I work with Agape Ranch, and we are the implementing partner. And like Brenda shared, we work directly with the church to find the support that you guys are going to need as requests come in. We currently do have 6 within the 78410 area and 1 within 78380, which is just down the road, who are ready and willing to step in and say, yes, how do we support our efforts? Most of these churches have members within our neighborhoods, but also our previous staff from TM or Cal Allen. So this is their passion. This is their community. And we're seeing them get ready and excited to say, how can we do more? We know that our students need support. We know that our families need support. There are situations that are happening. How do we support that? And really, the basis of Care Portal is to really create that engagement for a church to actually walk alongside this family and kind of prevent the need for further escalation. Care Portal falls within for Agape Ranch in the prevention side. We serve within prevention, adoption, foster, and aging out. Care Portal is our prevention measure. We're trying to prevent children from being removed from their home. If it's a tangible need that can be met, we want to do that. Again, we work with CPS and the Pregnancy Resource Center along with TM now, which congratulations, that's amazing. To really serve those families. And what does that look like? That looks like a bed. That looks like a box of food. That looks like a refrigerator or a stove. When a student's coming in tired or not in the best hygiene, there may be a situation, and you guys are the first line that see that. You guys know this child wasn't like this 3 months ago. Something's going on. And so if you guys can identify that need where it's, hey, you know what, our washer broke, so my mom hasn't had a chance to wash any of our clothes. We can do that. We can do that as a church. We can say, hey, you know what, my neighbor has a washer that they haven't been using. We would love to meet this family and bless them. And again, that's the moment where we create that connection of saying, yes, we understand that it is hard, there are struggles in life, but that's what we're here for as a community of believers. And again, these requests are vetted out, again, as you know, to really be aware that as we're coming in as the church. We know that these families are prepared for us to come in, but we're also not coming in with the Sunday service. We're not gonna sit here and give you a 1-hour Bible study in order to exchange this item. No, we're here to serve you and to walk alongside the situation. And when you're ready, if you're ready or you have questions, we're right down the road. We're across the street. We're however close you are to us. So really, that's the idea. But right now, like Brenda shared, we have 6 churches in our area. Christian Revival Center just down on Violet is actually the church that's excited about creating this food boxes. New Life at the Cross just launched their new building, so they're super excited about housing events. We have Destination Point, who's down on 624, who has a men's group who has said, yes, we will go out there. Most of our homes are single moms. So if there's something big that needs to be carried in, what an amazing resource to have men that say, yes, we'll load it up, we'll take it over. So really, all our churches have a different dynamic, but they're all ready and willing to serve your families. So just let us know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Rose.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, we're just very excited.
We're stoked. I mean, I know our churches are excited, so which is great, and we appreciate them being very patient. Launching a school as a requesting agency. So this is my first for sure, right? A little background, I just started in September. So I'm new to this. And so this is very much my baby that I'm walking through, and I'm really, I'm sharing that excitement as well with Amanda. I was doing the happy dance as soon as I got the message of officially launched. So I know it's a pilot phase, but I am very confident. I have all the faith that it's gonna go well. And I really do feel, in collaboration with Rose and team and hearing the excitement from the church community, I know that we're gonna get a great response, and hopefully it's something that, we can bring on for the rest of the year and so on.
We're the first district in the area, coastal Bend area, to sign on to this.
Yes.
Question,
Yes,
like,
of course.
what is the process? Like, is there something that would be too small, like a pair of shoes, or is it really bigger than that, or, and then what do we do?
There is definitely not, I can say there's not anything too small. And I'll say this because, and this goes along with a lot of the training, that I'll be sharing with Amanda and team. We even have the option for, again, a prayer request, right? And I know that seems small as far as physically, but that's huge. So yeah, never feel like, okay, this, maybe this doesn't fall under the criteria. There is criteria. We definitely take a closer look at things like rent assistance or strictly financial, because there are other resources. But if you have a certain situation of, hey, I just moved into town, I have a family that just moved into town, the mom is working, she's a single mom of 5, and she's behind by $200, or, and that's up to me, and to make sure that we have a healthy network and start developing those guidelines once I start receiving the data as far as, man, this community, we just don't get the response that I'm really, I wish we could when it comes to, strictly financial requests, or, hey, I do, but not anything over 300. We just don't get that type of response, the response that we need. So never feel that something is too small. Too big, it might be.
You'll look at it
Right,
and then
right.
see what.
And so the beautiful thing about Care Portal too is that it has some, I call them like yield signs when we're submitting a request. If a request is too large, it'll warn you and it'll say, hey, you might want to break this up. Or, hey, can you step back and really look at the needs of the family and prioritize, okay, you know what, maybe they don't need the toaster, but they could really use a microwave. And maybe they don't need rent assistance, they'll tap into family for support, or, XYZ, what is it that they need? Well, the kids need shoes, right? So that's where, the training kind of really comes into play as far as using your judgment. Like Rose said, you guys are here, you're the first line, you know what's going on with these children. So, and for that, I really appreciate everything that you all do on a day-to-day basis with our students.
And a little back history, I worked with CPS for many years, and we used Care Portal, that's why I knew about it.
Yes.
So I have a lot of knowledge. If you have questions, just let me know.
Just to add to that, as a mom in the district, my kiddos graduated from TM. I will say that as a parent whose students were under your care, I love the fact that you are engaged in knowing what the child really needs, what's really going on here. So it may just be a pair of shoes, and to a church, that's a $20 expense, it's not a big deal. But you know that what that kid really needs is a support system. They really need somebody to walk alongside. Or mom is really struggling, they're going through a situation. Yeah, the physical need is a pair of shoes, but you know that mom really needs support. So that would be a perfect example of where Care Portal steps in. Yes, it's a pair of shoes, but it's so much more. I really hope this mom connects with somebody because she needs the support right now. And again, I can say that from a parent perspective within the district. I love that we're so intentional with that, knowing that there's a bigger picture, not just the item.
A lot of times we would just round up some money and go grab a pair of shoes. You know, a couple of teachers pitching in.
That's great.
And we'd go get a pair of shoes, but I like that idea because they really need more.
But then something like this will allow for you to also focus on what you are supposed to be doing right on a day and not feeling depleted or spread thin or burnt out or, okay, I've exhausted all the resources that I know. How, you know, exactly, that's what Rose and team are there for.
And there's
so
a
it's
release,
great.
so the family, I'd give the family and let them sign the release so that we can give their information to the implementing partner so that they've signed and it's not just us saying, oh, well, the church might call you, but they've signed and said they understand that. So there's not any like, oh, I didn't know that the church was gonna show up at my house and bring this to me. I thought you were gonna do that. And so that's all explained. All explained ahead of time. So,
And that's a big part of the training that church, that Rose does with the churches is, I mean, that's what they focus on. Hey, you're, like she said, you're not gonna go and, you know, start with your praise and worship and deliver a Sunday. Right, so.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know it's in the pilot phase.
Yes.
Is it only going to be for high school or will it eventually trickle down?
Oh no, like in the fall, if everything goes the way it is, we want to do it on all 5 campuses. That's our goal. The pilot could only be 1 campus, and so since I'm housed there and that's usually where I'm at and that's where I see the most needs most often, that's why we pick the high school. But our goal, and in the fall, moving forward, we would have like a point contact person, not just me, so I wouldn't be processing all of them, but they would go to the point person, they would submit the request would come to me to make sure that it's like appropriate, and then it gets sent out to the churches. Does it go to you first or the churches?
No, you would vet it.
Yeah,
You would
so
vet it.
I vet it and then the churches get it.
She would, you know, give it a look over, especially with her experience and her background, and then she would submit it, and then it would get it. She would essentially approve the requests that were coming in from the different campuses, and then it would be sent out to the church community.
I'm just speaking from experience too, because I was
Yeah,
a teacher
there's a
for
lot.
15 years and
Yeah.
I mean, I've bought underwear and shoes and you know, when you have those kids, it's like you do what you can.
Yeah.
So I thought,
That's
you know,
great.
that would be a good idea.
That's our goal.
That's good.
That's the plan.
Do you have any other questions? I don't want to take too much of your time. Well, we're excited, and again, if you have any questions, our contact information is up there. Just remember, if you think church, you have a question, or even think, hey, I think my church, you know, if you didn't see the list, you didn't see them listed, I think my church would be really interested in
There's these out
kind of
there.
helping in this space. I brought some cards. I'll hand them out here in just a minute, but know that your contact would be Rose, or you can reach one of us and we'll, you know, get you in contact with her. Any questions about Care Portal or the tech side? Of course, I'm available. I'm the only one in the Coastal Bend. So is Rose as far as implementing partner. And then, of course, you all know Miss Amanda. So thank you all for your
Awesome.
time
Thank you.
and for everything that you do. Thank you,
All right.
ladies.
Gosh, time flies, right?
Presentation?
What?
Do you have another presentation?
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna be here all night, but
Uh-oh.
so, let's see. Did she bounce? Oh wait, Crystal.
Oh, and my director jumped off.
It's okay.
Oh,
Hey, Crystal, do you still wanna try to squeeze in, or do you want me to kind of put your stuff at the next, next meeting's agenda?
I would love to kind of just get, squeeze us in, because I would like to start, with our, you know, our services, so if
Okay.
you wouldn't mind just kind of giving us about, 10 minutes to kind of explain what we're gonna talk about, would greatly appreciate it.
Go for it.
Awesome. Well, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Crystal Narrow. I went to school at TM Middle School. I work our nonprofit. Our main goal is to do whatever students that provide basic necessities or tutoring, mentor support, majority of them are in there because of vaping. And I would like to be able to have some sort of service, wraparound service provided for them to kind of let them know and give them that, you know, yes, you're in here, but these are the consequences. Just kind of explain to them like in a lesson. And I've collaborated with our admin, reached out to the planning and health corporation, and spoke with Cynthia Gonzalez, who has been kind of, you know, leading teams in with each other about providing lesson plans. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to her so she can kind of discuss more of what those lesson plans look like.
Them?
Yeah,
They can see you.
oh, so we can see them.
Oh, you want to stare at these people?
Well, there are people there.
Just kidding. Sorry, it's late, babe. I'm sorry.
Yes, clearly.
Okay, are we good?
Y'all know the words to this. You are the champion. You're the ones making it happen every single day. You're the ones dedicated to making sure young people know you believe in them. And it is so amazing to see so many of you everyday organizations throughout the community that are also on board working with young people and working for young people. I come to you by way of Southwest Family Planning, Health Education Services Project. I've been with the organization now 28 years. I was younger. I had a lot more energy. And back then, we had a whole different agenda. When I heard you guys mention Beaumont and the Golden Triangle, well, I'm a proud graduate of Lamar University, Beaumont, Texas. My roommate, Rachel, was from Lumberton, Texas, and then I had Lisa from Liberty, Texas, and Trees from Dayton, Texas.
Nice.
So I have been in that area for quite some time. Right. Make many tough decisions. They choose classes to take. Friendships are important to them. They deal with life issues, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some of them lacking. Previously, who have dedicated their hearts and their hands to meeting the needs of young people and families is critical. At South Texas Family Planning, we serve every client every single day with excellence, conviction, and pride, which is why, Crystal, thank you for reaching out to us. I was excited about the opportunity to work with you guys. We are raising a generation of lung cancer. And if we don't do something really soon to put a halt to this, we're going to have a problem for a very long time. I'm so concerned that too many young people are choosing to vape because I wanted to see what it was like. I wanted to know how it makes me feel. My boyfriend was doing it even before I started, and he introduced me to it. So we know that peer pressure is real. And I said to my husband the other night, I said, honey, you know, it's just so tough being a teenager today. He said, honey, it's tough being an adult. Many people are in competition. Everybody's trying to make it, providing for their family, working hard, which is why we want to equip these young people with the skills that they can use to make wise choices right now. One of the ways by which we plan to do this is through a program titled Stop, Breathe, Look, and Listen. Because you've got to know this. And there are some things you must know about vaping. When you choose, you lose when you vape. That's the one message we have to help them understand. Which is why we must talk about self-esteem. See, self-esteem is how I feel about who I am. Self-esteem will help me go to the next level. Self-esteem is my own observation of who I am and what happens next. We introduce goal setting because they need to know that you need to have short-term goals. These are things I can do right now, steps that I can take in the right direction right now today. And then there are long-term goals. And those are the goals that I can work towards for my future. This is going to make me better. This is how I plan to do better with exercise, eating right, changing my attitude, choosing wisely. And then we want to introduce to them what vaping is, because most of them will you put more than water in there, and it's costing you on average $30 every 2 days. Do the math, and we actually did that. Talk about what could be done with this money instead. Then we introduce the different types of tools that they use, and this is where you'd be surprised that the students tell us, not us tell them, because they know every tool. And parents, the way that you are misled is because they look like a pen. They look like a flash drive. And they don't, where they place them is in plain sight, yet most parents don't even know it's there. It doesn't smell. Oftentimes it's odorless, but because it's more of a fruity scent, it's so misleading. But so is most of the things in our society misleading to young people. And then let's be real about it. Many of them know so much more about what's happening in life than we will ever know. Yet we sit here to make decisions for young people and we don't invite them to the table. And that's the one thing that they will tell you what it's going to take to make some things happen. And with others who are maybe on the wrong track, have done some things that have placed them in a different location, we need to get to the root of the issue. And oftentimes that is layered with mental health, mental illness, and the ability to just fit in and be liked. That's why talking about having a healthy dose of self-esteem and introducing decision-making concepts in all 6 stages is critical. Nicotine, aerosols, and making them understand a chemical is a chemical is a chemical. And utilization of these chemicals can lead to lung disease, heart disease, eyes and ears. It affects your ability to smell, skin and hair. Who wants to be around someone like that? And over time, you will begin to smell. As we watch your teeth deteriorate right in front of you. The things it does to the brain, insane in the membrane, we want to talk about addiction. And why people often find themselves in an addiction situation.
The human brain doesn't stop developing until you're 25. So when they start, doing vaping and all these other things, it affects their brain development, and they don't realize it.
We want to let them know that it's dangerous because it can explode even while you're charging it. And most of them would charge it at night like we do our cell phone, and it can explode. Some of the slang that they use: e-cigarettes,
Fuels, Podmart, vape pens, there are many different ones, and you wouldn't even know.
yeah, the cartridges that they use, they may choose one for taste, and like I tell them, use gum instead. There's no reason people, but remember, honestly, and this is what I really feel the young people need to hear. When e-cigarettes first emerged on the scene, they did so to help individuals who had been smoking have something in their hand to help them kick the habit. And instead, it has taken on a totally different avenue. And that now it's a craze, it's a fad. It makes people sick. But 40 years ago, so did smoking, until people began to die from cancer. Then we spend bukus of money to run campaigns to stop smoking. Please stop it. And then now they're picking up. This is the new Marlboro thing. And so we would just like an opportunity to come before the students, share with them what we know, what it is, and what the next steps need to be. And you are a critical part of the equation. Because once we have the presentation, once Crystal does what she does on a day-to-day basis to provide direction and guidance to these young people, what your counselors and principals, your superintendent, your assistant superintendent are dedicated to doing is everything we can to give them a chance at life. And at South Texas Family Planning and Health Corporation, we do that every single day. Many of them talked about all their programs. Well, we've been here 50 years with all of the programs in service.
executive director, spent here 33 of the 6. Jane Garza, through our National Family Planning Program, has been here 38. So we don't want to go into that. We want you to know, if you choose us, we're ready. We have a team of educators. I stole Fatima from the university when she came here to do her intern. And it's one of the best investments we have made through the Health Education Services program. To have a young person to be able to speak to the heart of the people and the heart of the young people. And we're also willing to come and do the exact same presentation for the parents. What makes us different from most organizations is that we do the homework and the research based on what the identified needs are for the campus. And we come up with a plan that will best meet your needs. And we are ready through the Health Education Services Project to come to you with our program that you've got to know this. Vaping. When you choose, definitely do it. Thank you. Cynthia Gonzalez and South Texas Family Planning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Y'all have any questions or anything?
No.
No?
Good.
We're good. Okay, well, that pretty much takes us to the tail end of our meeting. So we definitely appreciate you guys just kind of sending us off on a good positive note, considering kind of where we first started with vaping to where we are now. I appreciate that. So, Crystal, thank you. We'll be in touch, okay?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Y'all have a good evening.
You too. Okay. That takes us through all 4 of our presentations. That last presentation got snuck in at the last second just because I did think that our first presentation, what ended up being from Chief Shower, I didn't think that was gonna be the 45-minute presentation that he ended up giving, even after saying it was only gonna be 20 minutes. But I felt like he could still be talking right now. He probably is somewhere. Probably went to the next board meeting or 2. But I really appreciate you guys being here. Going through these presentations. We will touch base on some updates next time, or I will just simply send those through email. And then the next and final meeting we will have will be April 27th. We are going to revisit our current local wellness policy and plan to begin building or editing or updating for next school year. One thing we're going to kind of review is the school survey. That is a compliance piece with TA that we have to submit. But in addition to that, we are also going to look at some survey results about student wellness and health and nutrition. So that'll be part of the conversation there, as well as just discussion about the annual board report for next school year, talking about elections and members and officers and just how we're going to kind of restructure and do some different things next year. And then, of course, celebrations for the terms of services for this year. So that's kind of the agenda look ahead. But other than that, I'm sure everyone's looking forward to getting out of here and going home. So anybody have any questions about anything that was covered today? Okay.
Very good.
Say, I know Mr. St. John's going home to plan the middle school prevention and outreach program. So let me know how that goes, okay?
Here's my card in case you need it. Just let me know. And I'm sorry, I didn't meet you. Rose.
Jordan Garza. She's our guidance counselor, one of our guidance counselors.
Oh, okay, here's this one.
Thanks for coming, I really appreciate it, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'll probably submit a request tomorrow.
Yes. So Brenda shared a little bit with me about her family who's at the high school.
Well, high school student.
Okay, and it's not the.
Yes.
No, this is our 3rd for her this year.
Okay, because I know the San Pedro's.
It's not the San Pedro's, this is after San Pedro's. This was like last week.
I'm like, how did we not hear about this?
So much.
Like, I didn't see it in the news or anything.
Give you all something, but it's not going to work because it's not tailored to the campus.
Yeah, no, I get it. But I was just like, what? Like, because my son and daughter both graduated with Lorena. Yes, the San Pedro's, yeah. So that's how I was like, wait a minute. So I literally was texting them like, hey, and they're like, oh my gosh. Because they've both grown. So anyhow.